Someone hands you the entire alphabet and says, build a fort. Not a metaphor, just you have to live inside one of these letters now. Your enemies are approaching in about 4 minutes, and you need walls, coverage, maybe a moat if you're feeling ambitious. Some of these letters will get you killed immediately. Let's start there. Number 10, I. I is a vertical line, one vertical line. You are standing behind a pole and calling it a castle, which is something a child does in tag when they touch a tree and yell, safe. Your entire defensive strategy is don't get hit from the sides, and the sides are both completely open because you have no sides. An archer standing 6 feet to your left ends your reign instantly. The only way I works defensively is if your enemies are coming in a perfectly straight single-file line directly from the front, which, historically, enemies do not do. You could stack multiple eyes, but at that point, you've just invented a fence. And a fence is not a castle, it's a fence. I scores points for simplicity and loses every other point for being a stick. Number 9, L. L gives you 2 walls and exactly 1 corner, which sounds like an upgrade until you realize that 1 corner means 3 completely open sides. You can stand in the corner where the 2 walls meet and feel briefly protected, like you're in the world's most minimalist room, and then someone walks in from literally any other direction, and your castle experience ends. The 90-degree angle is real structural progress, though. You've gone from a stick to an actual corner, and in the castle letter rankings, that's meaningful growth. The vertical part gives you decent height on 1 wall. The horizontal part gives you some ground coverage, but together they protect roughly 25% of your perimeter. A real castle covers 100% of your perimeter. L covers 1 corner and leaves you hoping nobody checks the other 3. Number 8, T. T is a vertical line with a horizontal top, which means you have a roof section and a central pillar and absolutely no walls below the crossbar. Enemies can walk directly under your own ceiling and stand inside your castle without any effort. The geometry here is almost insulting, like the letter was designed specifically to lure you into thinking you have coverage, when really you've just built a carport. The top crossbar could theoretically serve as a defensive platform if you're standing on it, but you need a ladder to get up there, and ladders are a whole separate infrastructure investment your castle budget probably doesn't support. T does better than L in terms of surface area covered, but worse in terms of actual enclosure. You have more letter but less castle. Number 7, Y. Y deserves credit for ambition. 3 branches radiating outward gives you directional coverage in multiple angles, which sounds like strategy until you realize there's no enclosed space anywhere in this letter. You're not inside a Y, you're standing at the intersection of 3 corridors, exposed to the open ends of all 3 simultaneously. The psychological effect of a Y might work briefly, like enemies see you standing in this 3-pronged structure and hesitate for a moment, trying to figure out what your plan is. Because there is no plan, but that moment of confusion is your only advantage. The 120-degree branch angles do distribute your presence across a wide area, though, and if you're planning an ambush rather than a siege, Y becomes more interesting. Defensive Y is a disaster. Number 6, C. C is a curved wall with 2 open ends, which is better than everything ranked below it because it has an inside. You can stand inside a C. There is a concave surface wrapping around you, blocking attacks from the arc direction entirely, which is real protection. Measurable protection. The problem is the opening. C opens toward one direction, and that direction is completely undefended, like someone built a beautiful curved shield and then said, but we'll leave this whole front part open for vibes. Medieval siege engineers would look at a C-shaped castle and immediately know exactly what to do, which is walk through the opening. But the curvature itself is structurally excellent. A curved wall is harder to breach than a flat one because force distributes around the arc instead of concentrating at a single point. C understands physics. C just doesn't understand doors. Number 5, U. U is C but with better posture, 2 parallel walls connected at the base with a curved bottom, and the improvement over C is real. You now have 2 walls flanking your entrance instead of 1 wall and an open edge. Enemies approaching from the open top of the U have to walk between your 2 walls to reach you, which creates a kill zone, which is the kind of tactical advantage that actual castle designers built entire careers on. The problem is the top is completely open, so you've created a very good corridor leading directly to you with no ceiling defense and no gate. You're essentially an extremely confident courtyard. U scores high for instinctive defensibility and loses points for having no roof coverage and a completely exposed entry. It's close, though. U is starting to look like a castle. Number 4, D. D is a flat wall with a curved section attached, and the critical thing about D is that the flat wall is load-bearing in a way the curved letters can. T-match! You've got structural rigidity on one side and curved coverage on the other, and together they form a closed shape with no gaps. A closed shape, that's new. Every letter ranked below D has at least one opening you could walk through without breaking anything. But D is fully enclosed from every angle. The issue is entry and exit, because a fully enclosed D has no door, which makes it a prison as much as a castle, and a prison you built yourself. You can fix this with a gap in the flat section, but then you've just made a weaker P, and we'll get to P. D is excellent geometry trapped in an inconvenient format. Number 3, B. B takes D's logic and doubles it. 2 enclosed curves stacked vertically sharing one flat wall, and the result is a letter that has 2 separate interior chambers, which is not just a castle, it's a castle with a second floor's worth of thinking. The flat left wall gives you the same structural rigidity D has. The 2 curves give you twice the rounded coverage, and the shared interior walls create natural room division for different defensive functions. The weakness in B is that those 2 interior bubbles connect, meaning a breach in one chamber compromises the other, and the overall silhouette is wide rather than tall, which limits elevation advantage. But B is the first letter on this list where you could genuinely house a garrison, store supplies in one chamber and put archers in the other, and feel like you've thought about this beyond just which direction are the enemies coming from. Number 2, P. P is B with the bottom curve removed, which sounds like a downgrade until you consider that B's lower bubble is its most accessible point, and removing it creates a taller, simpler structure with a flat base that works with the ground instead of against it. The single upper curve gives you a protected rear section. The flat wall gives you a defensible front, and the open lower section can be controlled with an actual door rather than just hoping nobody notices the gap. P has real architectural logic. It's a tall, flat wall with a circular protected chamber at the top, which is basically a watchtower attached to a gatehouse, which is a design professional castle builders used repeatedly throughout history because it works. The only reason P isn't number 1 is that the single chamber limits capacity and the lower floor is entirely flat walls with no curved reinforcement. Number 1, O. O is a closed loop with no gaps, no weaknesses, no open ends, and a continuous curved wall that distributes force in every direction simultaneously. Every other letter on this list has at least one structural problem you'd have to engineer around, but O solves all of them by default. The full circle means no exposed flanks, no entry points for enemies unless you create one deliberately, and equal wall strength at every compass direction, so there's no weak side to target. Historically, circular tower designs appeared in medieval fortifications, specifically because the curved geometry eliminated corner vulnerabilities and deflected projectiles instead of absorbing them flat. The interior space is maximized relative to the perimeter, which means more room for fewer walls, which is efficient. O is the only letter that could be handed to a real military architect and receive a genuine nod of approval. Everything else on this list is practicing. O is the castle.